All right. We're here. We made it. Yes. Hare Krishna. How is everybody? Who is here? Hey, y'all. Yes, we made it. Happy Tuesday. How is y'all's COVID apocalypse going? Your quarantine? Yes? Good. Ready to jump into Easy Journey to Other Planets by Srila Prabhupada? Can we get a hell yeah? Right. I'll take that as a yes. I'll take that as a yes. Hey, what's up? Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for coming. Is that your little one? Hey, he's cute.
Yeah,
anyway, Hari Bol, y'all. Can y'all hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can. I did something right today. All right, so anytime that y'all want to jump in to comment or have a question, please feel free to do so. This is just like an open forum, and I'm interested to hear what everyone else is thinking. You know, so yes, let the party begin. Easy Journey to Other Planets by Srila Prabhupada, written in 1970, right about the height of the Cold War and the space race. And Prabhupada writes this text in response to the significance of our landing on the moon and man's material drive to conquer space. So I have the link for the text. Let me send it for y'all. Hold on. It's a PDF. I'll post it in the chat. Y'all, I'm very technology ignorant, by the way, so y'all are really patient, and I thank y'all for that. Okay. All right, there's the link to the text. All right, so yeah, does everyone have it? Good, awesome, beautiful. So basically, we just covered the first 5 pages of the material yesterday. And this first chapter is called The Anti-Material World. And Prabhupada begins this chapter by stating the 2 Nobel Prize winners in 1959 who discovered evidence of the antiparticle or antimatter. And Prabhupada is, in this work, is going on to explain in this chapter that that the concept of antimatter, of the antiparticle, is nothing new in the Vedic sciences, and goes on to explain that the Bhagavad Gita speaks of the nature of antimatter. And the nature of antimatter is the soul, it's Satchitananda. And when, because this text, Easier Journey to Other Planets, because this text, the audience that Prabhupada's writing for is an American public that is not necessarily interested in spirituality or that type of stuff, but it's more geared toward it. I believe it's geared more toward an audience that's steeped in more the material sciences, as well as to also be a bridge to the modern American public, connecting concepts of the Cold War and science and physics, and weaving them in to explain the relevance of the Vedic literature and the Bhagavad Gita. So in this text, when Prabhupada makes these Bhagavad Gita citations, he interposes the word antimatter or antiparticle with the word soul, because the soul cannot be created or destroyed. It's always been eternal, just as the way antimatter is. So are we following so far? Give me a thumbs up. Yay. Good. Awesome. So let me pick up where I left off. Let me find that. Yes. So at the bottom of, actually, we'll just start, I'll just start in the middle of the 5th page in my copy. The paragraph that begins, in the Vedas, the supreme living being or the absolute truth is called Bhagavan. So here we go. In the Vedas, the supreme living being or the absolute truth is called Bhagavan, the opulent one, the living being who is the fountainhead of all energies. The discovery of the 2 forms of limited energies by modern scientists is now the beginning of the process of science. They must go further to discover the source of the 2 particles or atoms, which they term material and antimaterial. How can the antimaterial particle be explained? We have experience with material particles or atoms, but we have no experience with antimaterial atoms. However, in the Bhagavad Gita, it gives the following vivid description of the antimaterial particle or the soul. The soul or the antimaterial particle is within the material body. Because of the presence of this antimaterial particle or the soul, the material body is progressively changing from childhood to boyhood, from boyhood to youth to old age, after which the antimaterial particle or the soul leaves the old unworkable body and takes up another material body. So I wanted to just give y'all some information about the concept of the atom. The structure of the atom is explained in the 3rd Canto, chapter 11. There's a dialogue of Maitreya and Vidura speaking of the structure of the universe and the structure of time, and how it begins, the smallest element of the material world is referred to as the atom. It's right there in the 3rd Canto, chapter 11, explains and describes a text that's over 5,000 years old is explaining the structure of an atom, something that our scientists didn't get to until the 20th century. Now, how mind-blowing is that? Yeah, it's pretty cool, right? Anyway, I'll continue. Here we go. This description of a living body confirms the scientific discovery that energy exists in 2 forms. When one of them, the antimaterial particle, is separated from the material body, the latter becomes useless for all purposes. As such, the antimaterial particle or the soul is undoubtedly superior to material energy. No one, therefore, should lament the loss of material energy. All varieties of sense perception in the categories of heat and cold, happiness and distress are but interactions of material energy which come and go like seasonal changes. The temporary appearance and disappearance of such material interactions confirms that the material body is formed of a material energy that is inferior to the living force or the jiva energy, or the anti-material particle. Any intelligent man who is not disturbed by happiness and distress, understanding that there are different material phases resulting from the interactions of the inferior energy, is competent to regain the anti-material world, or the spiritual world, the transcendental world, where life is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. The anti-material world, or the transcendental world, Vaikuntha. Does anyone know what the word Vaikuntha means in Sanskrit? It means the place of no anxiety. That's Krishna's abode, the place of no anxiety. Sounds kind of nice, right? Right. Let's go together. All right. The anti-material world, the spiritual world, is mentioned here, and in addition, information is given in that in the spiritual world there is no seasonal fluctuation. Everything there is permanent, blissful, and full of knowledge. But when we speak of it as a world, we must remember that it has forms and paraphernalia of various categories beyond our material experiences. Consciousness, it's something that we can't really wrap our understanding around in material terms, right? We have to bring ourselves to a transcendental platform to understand the nature of consciousness and the nature of what the soul is. So the anti-material particle, or the soul, is finer than the finest material of all material particles. This living force is so powerful that it spreads its influence all over the material body. The anti-material particle, or the soul, which is part and parcel to Krishna, has immense potency in comparison to the material particle, and consequently cannot be destroyed by it. Oh, here we go. Okay, I think I read the wrong part, and that was like way earlier. I think we left off at, here we go. Y'all, I'm so sorry, I messed this up. I had one of those days today that was like, do all of these things for clients, and I did. All right, so, in my copy, page 15, it's reading stuff that we read yesterday. Because of the Lord's two energies, inferior and superior, material and transcendental, manifest in the material world and in the spiritual world, or anti-material worlds, he is called the Supreme Absolute Truth. Krishna explains this in the Bhagavad Gita as thus. Krishna says, I am Arjuna, the highest principle of transcendence. There is nothing greater than me. Everything rests on me. Everything rests on my energies, exactly like the pearls on a thread. An allusion to Krishna's opulences. Long before the discovery of the principle of antimatter and the anti-material worlds, the subject was delineated in the pages of the Bhagavad Gita. The Gita itself indicates its philosophy had previously been taught to presiding deities of the sun, which implies that the principles of the Bhagavad Gita were expounded by the personality of Godhead not long before the Battle of Kurukshetra. At least 120,000 years, 100,000 years before. Now, modern scientists have discovered a fraction of those truths that are available in the Bhagavad Gita. All right, new stuff. The assumption that the anti-material universe is, the assumption of the anti-material universe is also found in Bhagavad Gita. And from all data available, it is to be assumed without the slightest doubt that the anti-material world is situated in the anti-material sky, or the spiritual sky, a sky which is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, and it is known as Sanatan Dharma, or the eternal nature. Exactly as material atoms create the material world, the anti-material atoms create the spiritual world with all its paraphernalia. The spiritual world, or the anti-material world, is inhabited by anti-material living beings, or spiritual beings. In the anti-material world, there is no inert matter. Nothing dies. Nothing is subject to the deterioration of the passage of time. In the anti-material world, there is no inert matter. Everything there is a living principle, and the supreme personality in that region is God himself. I read once in one commentary that everything in the spiritual world, if its counterpart, if its material counterpart exists in the material world, like let's say like a rock, or a mountain, or an instrument, that anything that comes from material creation has a personality in the material world and in the spiritual world. So let's say that you bump into like a huge boulder, and you apologize to the boulder, and someone says, "Oh, that's just an inert, object." And then the Krishna consciousness person says, "But that boulder, that rock that I just kicked, that I just ran into accidentally, and I apologize to it, has a personality in the spiritual world." Isn't that cool? So the next time you see earthly inert matter, like rocks, or grass clippings, or you run into a wall or column, that every object that we create, or that Krishna creates in the material world, has a personality in the in Vaikuntha, in the spiritual world. Krishna's flute is said to have a personality in Vaikuntha, and they enter into dialogue and they speak to each other in Vaikuntha. Anyway, I digress. Exactly as material atoms create the material world, anti-material atoms create the anti-material world in all of its paraphernalia. The denizens, or the inhabitants of the spiritual world, or the anti-material world, possess eternal life, eternal knowledge, and eternal bliss. In other words, they have all of the qualifications of God. They aren't God themselves. But since they are part and parcel, they exhibit the qualities of God, of Krishna. In the material world, the topmost planet is called Satya Loka, or Brahma Loka. So if y'all are ever interested in Vedic cosmology, read the fifth canto. Read the fifth canto, because that entire text outlines the structure, the Vedic structure of the cosmos, and the measurement of time, the measurement of the material universe. And so when in the fifth canto, when it describes all of these different material universes and all these different planets within the cosmos, the suffix, I'm going to go into the etymology here, but the suffix is loka, like Satya Loka, Brahma Loka, you know, the abode of Brahma, or in the spiritual world, Vrindavana Loka. That suffix loka means place, and by way of Latin, it comes into our English vernacular, and we have the words like location or locale, locality. So a little bit of an etymology lesson there for y'all. All right. In the material world, the topmost planet is called Satyaloka or Brahmaloka. Beings of the greatest talents also live on this planet. The presiding deity of Brahmana Loka is Brahma, the first created being of the material world. Brahma is a living being like so many of us, but he is the most talented personality in the material world. He is not so talented that he is in the category of God, but he is in the category of those living entities directly dominated by God. God and the living entities both belong to the anti-material world. Brahma is said to, Brahma and all the inhabitants who live on these higher heavenly planets, these heavenly lokas, are said to live for billions and billions of years, but they are still subject to the destructive force of time. Also, the famous inhabitants of the heavenly planets are these beautiful beings, musicians called Gandharvas. Gandharvas, yeah. And that's talked about in I believe the fifth canto as well. All right, so let's get back to business. How much time do I have left? All right, good. God and the living entities both belong to the anti-material world and the material world. The scientists, therefore, would be rendering service to everyone by researching the constitution of the anti-material world or the constitution of the spiritual world. How is it administered? How are things shaped there? Who are the presiding personalities? And so on and so forth. Of the Vedic literatures, Srimad Bhagavatam deals elaborately with these matters. The Bhagavad Gita is the primary study of the Srimad Bhagavatam. These two important books of knowledge should be thoroughly studied by all the men in the scientific world. These books would give many clues to scientific progress and would indicate many new discoveries. Y'all, I just realized that I forgot to chant mantras before this. Will y'all forgive me? I'm really sorry about that. Should I chant them now? Let's chant them now. Prayer to our founding Acharya, Srila Prabhupad, and to our teachers. Om Angyana Tilyam Dasya, Ginanjana Shalakaya, Chakshur Umilitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. My apologies. All right, cool. Awesome, let's get back to business. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so terrible. Oh my gosh. It's been one of those days. All right. Of the Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavatam deals elaborately with these matters. The transcendentalists and the materialists are two distinct classes of men. The transcendentalists gather knowledge from authoritative scriptures like the Vedas. Vedic literature is received from authoritative sources, which are in the line of transcendental disciplic succession. This disciplic succession, or parampara, is also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that hundreds of thousands of years ago, the Gita was spoken to the presiding deity of the sun, Surya, who delivered the knowledge to his son Manu, from whom the present generation of man has descended. And again, in the third canto, chapter 11, it talks about, there's a mention that of the Gita being passed, the lessons being passed down from the sun god to his son Manu. And from Manu, we get the descendants of humans, or the descendants of sentient beings of the human consciousness. I think there's seven descendants of Manu. Manu, in his turn, delivered this transcendental knowledge to his son, King Ikshvaku, I butchered that, who is the forefather of the dynasty in which the personality of Godhead, Sri Rama, appears. This long chain of disciplic succession was broken during the Advent period of Lord Krishna 5,000 years ago, and for this reason, Krishna restated the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, thereby making him the first disciple of this knowledge in this age. How are we doing here, y'all? Yeah? Good, good, good. Any questions, comments, inquiries? All right, let's, caught me eating ice cream. Love it. Okay. Y'all, I'm also like the least qualified person to be explaining this, but just I really love it so much that I just wanted to share it. So here we go. The transcendentalist of this age, therefore, is in the disciplic line that starts with Arjuna. Without troubling himself with the materialistic research work, the transcendentalist acquires the truth concerning matter and antimatter in the most perfect way through this disciplic succession, and thereby saves himself much botheration. Prabhupada uses the word botheration, I believe, which is a little, it's kind of an arcane word now. It's obsolete. The word botheration, definitely left over from the Victorian times. Reflection of Prabhupada's Victorian education. The gross materialists, however, do not believe in the anti-material worlds of the personality of Godhead. They are therefore unfortunate creatures, although sometimes very talented, educated, and advanced otherwise. They are bewildered by the influence of the material manifestation and are devoid of things anti-material or devoid of things that are spiritual in nature or transcendental in nature. It is a good sign, therefore, that the material scientists are gradually progressing toward a region of the anti-material world. This may even be possible for them to make sufficient progress to be able to know the details of the spiritual world or anti-material world, where the personality of Godhead resides as the predominating figure, where the living entities live with him and serve him. The living entities who serve the Godhead are equal in quality to him, not quantity, but quality. They're equal in quality to him, but at the same time, they are predominated as servitors. They are eternal servants, and it is their bliss to serve. Yes. In the anti-material world, there is no difference between the predominated and the predominator. The relationship is in perfection and without a tinge of materialism. it's a relationship. The relationship we have with Krishna in Vaikuntha, it's our purest relationship we can have with God. And it's a relationship of where the desire to benefit for your own sake is taken away. It's almost as if that it's this infinite commensatory receiving and giving without feeling any burden whatsoever. That's why they call it Vaikuntha, the land of, the place of no anxiety. Vaikuntha. The nature of material world is destructive, just like COVID-19. It's interesting that Prabhupada says this, the nature of the material world is destructive. And what is the nature of time? The nature of time is destructive. But that's neither a bad thing, because Krishna is present within that destruction. In the Bhagavad Gita, I'm so terrible. I think it's chapter 16, maybe. I don't know. I need to check up on that. Krishna says, "Time I am." Therefore, he is. Krishna is also destruction. He is the force that destroys. Anytime we look at ourselves in the mirror and we've noticed that, you know, we've changed or we've aged, instead of saying, and this is the way I try to approach it, instead of saying, "Oh, I'm getting so old. Oh, things don't work right when you're old and things hurt when you're old," you know, try to think of it as, well, that's just Krishna, because Krishna is time, and that is the nature of the material world. And my Guru Maharaj, Hirdayananda Das Goswami, I had the good fortune to speak with him on Friday, and he was talking to me about why the body deteriorates with time, and Krishna's purpose behind that is so we become less attached to it. And that's Krishna's power of time. The Krishna's power of destruction is it's meant to loosen whatever attachments we have, so that we may become more focused and refine our concentration on what our true dharma is, or what our Sanatana dharma is. Does this make any sense? No? Maybe. Thumbs up. All right, cool. Any comments, questions? All right. Oh, AJ, thank you. The Lord says, "Time I am, the mighty force which destroys everything, fully manifesting myself here. I am here, enraged in destroying the world. Even without you, none of the warriors arrayed in the enemy ranks shall survive." Very true. Yes, newsflash, we're all gonna die. But we have to refine our consciousness. It's about dying well and dying with a refined consciousness, and that is a lifetime practice, right? Yes. All right. You guys are so tolerant of me. You guys are the best. Anyway, let me continue on. The nature of the material world is destructive. According to Bhagavad Gita, there is some partial truth to the assumption that the physical scientists, there is an annihilation of the material world and the anti-material worlds when they chance to clash, aka the Sambardaka destructive fire that destroys all of the universes. The material world is a creation of changing modes of nature. These modes, or the gunas, are known as sattva guna, the mode of goodness, rajaguna, the mode of passion, and tamaguna, the mode of ignorance. The material world is created by the mode of rajas, maintained by the mode of sattva, and annihilated by the mode of tamas. Tamas, the energy the destructive material energy. It's the mode of ignorance, but however, it's in our process of bhakti yoga, in our process of Krishna consciousness, it's using these other gunas, these rajaguna and tamas gunas, and we have to they need to be governed and maintained by sattva. Because if we were just rajistic all the time, we'd just be consuming, and but however, rajistic energy is necessary to getting stuff done. And tamasic energy, the mode of ignorance, the mode of destruction. If we eat tamasic food, if we're a tamasic person and we're lazy, we're getting things done. However, tamas, governed and maintained by sattva guna, is what sleep is. We need sleep. But too much lethargy shows that it's that mode of material energy is not governed by sattva guna. Does this make any sense? Yeah. So let your other gunas be governed by sattva guna. That's what I say. That's what I'm trying to do. One breath at a time. All right. The material world is created by the modes of rajas, maintained by the mode of sattva, and annihilated by the mode of tamas. These modes are omnipresent in the material world. As such, at every hour, every minute, every second, the process of creation, maintenance, and annihilation is taking place all over the material universe, all at the same time. Make your head spin. However, in the transcendental world, this process doesn't exist. It is beyond that process of time and change. The highest planet of the material universe is Brahmaloka. Brahmaloka is also subjected to the modes of material nature, even though it's a high heavenly planet, and and the inhabitants of Brahmaloka gets to live for billions and billions of years. They are still subject to the mode of tamas. They are still subject to the destructive force of time, right? It's not about trying to get to these heavenly planets to enjoy ourselves. Let's go beyond Brahmaloka. Let's go to Vaikuntha, right? Yes. All right. This stuff gets me fired up, y'all. All right. The highest material planet in the material universe is Brahmaloka, is also subjected to the modes of material nature, although the duration of life on the planet is due to the predominance of the mode of sattva guna. It is said that life on Brahmaloka is 4,300,000 times 1,000 times 2 times 30 times 12 times 100 solar years. That's quite an equation. I'm just going to say its lifespan on Brahmaloka is billions and billions of years. It's a pretty long time, but still subjected to the forces of time and destruction. Despite its long duration, Brahmaloka is subject to destruction. Although life on Brahmaloka is fantastically long compared to life on Earth, it is only a flash in comparison. to the eternal life of the non-material world. Consequently, the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Sri Krishna, asserts the importance of the anti-material universe or the transcendental universe. Lord Krishna instructs that all the planets within the material universe are destroyed at when Brahma Loka reaches its 100 billionth birthday, that's when the Samvardhaka fire comes in. That's when all material creation, all the universes and all the timelines are destroyed. So no one gets out of this alive, y'all. I hate to tell you. You can hoard all the toilet paper you want. Not gonna, that's not your ticket to transcend destruction. All right. All of the living beings inhabiting these material worlds are destroyed materially along with the destruction of the material worlds. The living entity, however, is constitutionally anti-material, is constitutionally an anti-material particle, or the soul, which is part and parcel to Krishna. But unless he elevates himself to the region of the anti-material world by cultivation of anti-material activities, the activities of bhakti yoga, and having all of our actions, thoughts, words, being governed by sattva guna. Unless he is governed by sattva guna and cultivates anti-material activities or devotional activities, he is destroyed materially at the annihilation of the material world and is subject to take rebirth in a material shape with the rebirth of the new material universe. In other words, he is subject to the pains of rebirth and death. Y'all, I don't want to go through this again. Yeah, I mean, like this is my last time around. I'm just trying to make it that way. Like, who wants to learn how to read again? Who wants to go through algebra again? Nobody, right? Yes. There are greater things that lie beyond, much richer and more fulfilling, nectarous things that lie beyond. All right. Only those living entities who take to the loving service of the personality of Godhead during the manifested stage of material life are undoubtedly transferred to the material worlds after quitting the material body. Immortality is obtained only by those who return to Godhead activities. What time is it? Okay, good, I have some time. What are these anti-material activities? Prabhupada anti-material devotional activities are.
I don't know if it's just mine, but you're glitching.
I'm glitching.
Yeah.
Okay. I know I pay my Verizon bill. I should have good internet. I think because everybody and their mother is on the internet right now, which is, how is that different than any other time in our material world right now, right? But trying to do transcendental things, we're doing anti-material things right now, you guys. How amazing is that? Reading transcendental literature and engaging in transcendental conversation. This is way better than Netflix, you guys, I think. Anti-material activities, also known as devotional activities, but Prabhupada's going to lead his reader later that, like, oh, the reader is interested in, oh, what are anti-material activities? But it turns out, like, Prabhupada's leading them to, it's going to talk about what devotion, the nature of devotional activities. They're anti-material activities. They are the medicine. Bhakti yoga is the medicine. For example, when a man falls ill, he goes to the physician who prescribes medicines which eventually cure the suffering planet. Similarly, the materialist is ailing, and he should consult an expert transcendentalist physician. What is his ailment? He is suffering the tribulations of rebirths, deaths, diseases, and old age, and COVID-19. I just added that on there. Once he agrees to put himself under the back to Godhead treatment or the Bhakti Yoga treatment, he is able to transfer himself again. It's part of yucky material life. Math has its time and place, though. Annihilation of the material world takes place in two ways. Partial annihilation occurs at the end of every four, Prabhupada lists 4,300,000 times 1,000 solar years, or at the end of each day of Brahmaloka. Days are a lot longer on Brahmaloka than they are on planet Earth. The fifth canto talks about, refers to planet Earth as Bhumandala, or the Earth Mandala. Of Brahmaloka, which is the topmost planet in the material world. During that time of partial annihilation, the topmost planets, such as Brahmaloka, are not annihilated, just the lower planets like Earth. But at the end, long billions of years, the entire cosmic manifestation is merged into the anti-material body, from whence the material particles emanate, manifest, and merge after annihilation. The spiritual world, or the anti-material world, which is far removed from the material sky, is never annihilated. It absorbs the material world. It, quote unquote, clash that occurs between the material and anti-material worlds, as suggested by the scientists, that and that the material worlds are destroyed, but there is no annihilation of the anti-material worlds. The eternally existing anti-material world is unmanifested to the material scientist. He can simply have information of it insofar as the principles of its existence are contrary to the modes of the material world. Full details of the anti-material universe, or the spiritual universe, can be known only from the infallible source of liberated authorities who have thoroughly realized the constitution of the anti-material principle, or the spiritual principle, transcendental to the modes of material nature, transcendental to the gunas. This information is received by oral hearing reception by a submissive disciple of the personality of Godhead. How are we doing so far? Yeah? Doing okay? Good. Oh, I was lagging bad, unfortunately. Why can't everyone else just get off their internet? I mean, we're doing non-material things here. Everyone else is on like watching Netflix and be like, this is some hardcore transcendental anti-material kind of activities we're getting into. Yes. But I mean, everyone has a right to the internet, so we're just gonna have to deal. So, the Vedic knowledge was thus imparted unto the heart of Brahma, the first living being in the material creation. It was Brahma who related this knowledge to the sage Nara Muni. You guys, Nara Muni is this heavenly character who just traverses the universe. It goes from planet to planet, like with just these powerful like yogic practices, and can transport himself with thought. It's pretty amazing. Narada Muni was Vyasudev's guru. Vyasudev, who wrote, compiled the Vedas and the Bhagavatam. All right. It was Brahma who related this knowledge unto the sage Nara Muni. Similarly, the Bhagavad Gita was spoken by the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, to Vivasam, the presiding deity of the sun. And when the aural chain of disciplic succession was broken, Lord Krishna repeated the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. At the time, Arjuna took the role of disciple and student in order to receive the transcendental knowledge from Sri Krishna. In order to drive out all misgivings which the gross materialists of the world may have, Arjuna asked all relevant questions, and the answers were given by Krishna so that any layman can understand them. So it's accessible to all. Only those who are captivated by the glamour of the material world cannot accept the authority of Lord Sri Krishna. One has to become thoroughly clean in habit and heart before one can understand the details of the anti-material world, spiritual world. Bhakti yoga is a detailed scientific transcendental activity for that both the neophyte and the perfect yogi can practice. Bhakti yoga as this beautiful level playing field that we all have access to, that we're all are encouraged to move on our own individual journey and to seek dialogue, seek sangha, and to have questions and to engage our natural born intelligence. Intelligence, that's a rare quality these days, right, y'all? I mean, I think so. I mean, sometimes I can be like non-intelligent. I'm working on it, I'm trying hard. All right. The material world is only a shadow of a representation of the anti-material world or the spiritual world. And the intelligent men who are clean in heart and habit will be able to learn, in a nutshell, all the details of the anti-material world, the spiritual world, from the text of the Bhagavad Gita. And these are in actuality more exhaustive than material details. The basic details are as follows. The presiding deity of the anti-material world, spiritual world, is Lord Sri Krishna, who exists in his original personality as well as in his many plenary expansions. This personality and his plenary expansions can be known only by anti-material activities, commonly known as bhakti yoga or devotional service. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the supreme truth. He is the whole anti-material principle. The material principle, as well as the anti-material principle, is an emanation from his person. He is the root of the complete tree. When the water is poured onto the root of the tree, the branches and the leaves are nourished automatically. And in some way, when Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is worshipped, all details of the material world are enlightened. And the heart of the devotee is nourished without having to work in a materialistic way. This is the secret of the Bhagavad Gita. All right. I'm going to stop there for now. On my text, it's page 24. Yeah. So we'll pick that up tomorrow, unless anyone has anywhere to be, which maybe during quarantine we don't. I don't know. So comments, questions, reflections, complaints, let her rip.
I see Suresh had mentioned that Nara Muni is a troublemaker, right? So is that the same one who told the king that Krishna would, I can't remember the king, at Krishna's birth?
Yes, yeah, same
So
Nara Muni.
Told the king, hey, get rid of this kid. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. The same guy. He also lives for a long time too.
Yeah.
Because he's a heavenly being, like Brahma.
So is he then a plenary portion of Krishna then? Yeah. I guess, right? Like a demigod, essentially. Or no? I mean, in theory, everybody is.
Yeah. In my limited knowledge, I believe plenary expansion refers to Garbhodakshay Vishnu.
Okay.
And Garbhodakshay Vishnu is responsible for creating Brahma.
Okay.
Go to the third canto and the fifth canto. Take a look at the table. And we're supposed to read the Bhagavatam in order from first canto, chapter 1, verse 1. But I'm ADHD and I skip around. But if you're interested in Vedic cosmology and the Vedic sciences, it is laid out very systematically and very accessibly in the third and the fifth cantos when describing the origin of material creation. I think most specifically, or how Krishna expands himself to create Brahma, and how Brahma makes our universe. Does that make any sense? Yeah, maybe.
It does, yeah. Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, check out the third and fifth canto. Check out the third and fifth canto. It's there. I didn't make it up. Else? It says my internet connection is unstable.
Yeah, you're lagging again.
Right. Yeah, I'm lagging. Okay. Any insights? Yeah. Why it's important that I think we read Prabhupada's books is that we're being entrusted with that energy, with that spirit of making Krishna consciousness applicable to, and how it is relevant, applicable to navigating through through our material world. And Prabhupada was such a beautiful example of that. So yeah. Easy Journey to Other Planets is my favorite. So yeah. Let's do this again tomorrow night if y'all want. I'm not going anywhere. I'm quarantined. Fun times. So yeah. Thank y'all so much for joining me and reading one of my favorite Prabhupada texts. Again, I am the least qualified person to read and explain it, but I do it out of deep love because I just love that book. I want to share it with y'all. But yeah, see y'all around tomorrow. Yes, namaste. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
End meeting. There we go.